Alright guys, so to refresh your guys' memory, I'm in a side control position. And for whatever reason, one of these arms has come up and maybe he's pushing off of me, he's framing off of me or whatever. I trap the arm across, I get my arm across, and I start to belly out and I get this head and arm choke, right? So what are the elements that are going to lead me into being able to finish it? Well, there's that this elbow has to be on the ground, right? So if this elbow starts coming up, this choke's no longer going to be efficient, right? So if you can get this elbow up and use your other arm potentially to start to leverage that out so I can't choke that side of your neck, maybe, right? Now, the general wisdom is that in order to choke somebody out, you need to have equal pressure on both sides of the neck. I'm going to challenge that to you guys, okay? Take your thumb, find your artery on the side of your neck, press it on it for about 5 seconds, make sure that you're actually on that carotid artery, and see what happens. You're going to start going out. So, you want to be careful if somebody's starting to establish this and they're getting their head and their shoulder down to the right position. If you're trying to turn into them, you might be pressuring quite a bit onto this side of your neck, and you might be causing yourself to get choked more, right? But, if I can break down this and then start to flatten out, now I've got that arm in on that side, the choke is gone, as far as I'm concerned, guys. You're not going to be able to finish it with somebody else's hand stuck into this little hole right here, right? And again, I don't like, hand-only defenses. It's a good way to get your fingers broken. But if you can get down to the wrist and you can start to extend your arm out to, break down that connection on the side of your neck, then go ahead and do it. Now, one of the defenses that's very common for this choke is this telephone defense, right? So they are, if you do this, it's kind of hard for them to start pressuring up and in to the side of your neck, right? So that's actually a pretty easy way to start defending it. But the problem that I see with that one, guys, and it is the number one defense that I get against this particular choke. And the problem with it is that people go here and they're like, haha, I'm not getting choked anymore. And they just hang out. Right? So if you guys just hang out, I get here, you guys, and I'm trying to finish this, but you got that telephone choke. So I move my head up to the elbow and I start pressuring this out. Now I've got this weird shoulder lock thing going on. Okay, there's something I can do here, right? If you've got this telephone defense, I can start to move my head to the other side, grab my own bicep, and then I've got kind of this no-gi Ezekiel that I can do, right? So, this telephone defense is a momentary defense that you use to give yourself time to start escaping, right? So, if I'm in this position, I might actually be trying to leverage out because, again, my opponent's kind of forcing me out flat on my back. And that's one of the reasons why they're able to get this choke, right? Is they've got me flat on my back. And really, they need to be able to press in directly in on this side while choking on this side, right? So from this position, if I'm here and I'm creating that space, maybe I can use my hand to kind of continue to create a little bit more space there. I'm opening up the side of my artery. One thing that I might be encouraging you guys to do is start to move away and start working to get onto your side facing your opponent, right? Because, again, they need to be able to pressure in with this arm, and if they can't do that, then they can't finish the choke. So, again, this is not exactly a defense that I have. Either one of these are ones, not counting the telephone defense, but either one of these guys is not necessarily a escape that I've used, right? But mostly because most people don't get me into head and arm chokes because I know that they're there and I'm always defending them. Remember from the last video? Don't let them set it up in the first place. So because it's always on my radar and I'm not letting people get it, I don't get to practice these as much. But the concept is there, guys. Is I'm trying to create space and I'm starting to work on prying that open, right? And I'm not expecting them to get this chain grip broken off, because they've got, actually, we get into this position, even if you're pressuring off, there's no pressure on that chain grip, right? You're just moving my head away from your body. You're moving that shoulder away. So you're not going to break that chain grip. But you can start to turn in, right? If you can get enough pressure off that you can start working your way in, right? And, it might be something like this, right? Is I'm here, I'm trying to create a little bit of space here, and then maybe I can extend up and start to turn in, and that moves my arm from here to here. Is that safe? Of course not. My arm's extended, I'm away from my body. There are other things that my opponent can do at this point to start attacking me. But I'm moving away from that choke, and now I've got time to react and defend. So, if I'm here, I can start creating a frame, I can start moving out. He's got the underhook on my head or whatever, or maybe I can start working my way to the guard, whatever. But the point is that I'm trying to break down the elements of that choke and finish it. The other thing, guys, is that when I'm doing this choke, right, I get into this position, I'm turning in, I might be moving up and turning in. What I need to do to kind of tighten this up is I'm not going to squeeze harder, right? We talked about this. But I'm going to start moving my body away from my opponent's body, right? And so if I'm on the bottom and I feel somebody starting to do that, I'm going to be, as much as I can, I'm going to be trying to stay as connected to them as possible. I don't want them to run away. If I can get their leg, right, and I can maybe put them into a half guard and extend down, they're not going to be able to move away. They're not going to be able to finish this choke as easy. So, look at the elements that make up that choke. I may have just fed you a whole lot of bullshit there, and I'm going to flat out say it, that's everything I tell you might not work other than the telephone defense. But I'm getting there by looking at the concepts that make up that choke, and then I'm breaking them apart, right? So, the first thing that I would tell you is when you're in a side control position, be very mindful about how you frame, when you frame, and don't let your elbows move away from your body, because again, me being able to trap that elbow is what's giving me that choke in the first place. Once that choke is in place, it's going to be harder. The moment that elbow gets shoved across your body and they start to block it with their shoulders and their head, it's going to be 90% harder to start to escape from that moment on than it would have been had you not allowed them to trap that arm in the first place. So the first defense is to not let them get the submission. It's there, don't let them get it in the first place. The second defense would be to buy yourself time in any way that you can. So that might be the telephone defense. I might start, lifting up their elbow on that side so they can't possibly finish. Probably a combination of those two. So I'm doing everything I can to turn into them. But remember, they're pushing on my arm this way, guys. So if they are really, really pushing on it, it's going to be very hard for me to really, really start to push in on them, right? And start to turn in to get that elbow down. So take that with a grain of salt, right? Because once it starts getting set up, it's going to be a very, very difficult thing for you to start to break apart. And then getting that arm in, that's a tight space. You have to start to create space first, somehow. I might have to come in closer to the shoulder and move my hand down and then start to pry out. I don't know. But again, if I'm moving a lot on the bottom, right? So I'm trying to shrimp away, I'm trying to shrimp in, I try to get my knee in so I can get the half guard or whatever. That's time that they may not be trying to actually finish the submission, because again, they're worried about losing that position and losing everything that they worked for. So if you can keep them on that, and again, it's going to be much harder with this choke than the rear naked choke to really start making that threat of escape and really selling it to the point that they pause on trying to choke you, right? So that's my input on the head and arm choke. So we'll go ahead and we'll start to move on.